So this is going to be a tutorial covering a lot of the tech used in Ori Randomizer, also a lot of the tech that is used in all skills and other categories, but you wouldn't cover if you were just learning Randomizer very easily. So this is going to be a video covering all of that. So to start off, I'm going to have a look at the dash ability, which has a lot of tech available. So first of all, you have dash glides. So normally this is dash. You can do an air dash in the air, but if you need to cover distance before you have air dash, or if you need to cover a gap or a slow zone caused by skipping cutscenes, then you can do what is called a dash glide, which looks like this. And the way you do this is you do something called going neutral, which it means that you are not pressing any direction. So you start off pressing the direction you want to be going in, so in this case it's left, and then you press dash, and then you release the direction and press jump, like that. I believe you have about 10 frames in order to do that, so it's rather forgiving. You can do it very consistently, and it is very helpful for covering distance, covering jumps, and especially useful for covering slow zones, as it is a glide. So, which I will cover more on glides in a later section. The next thing is covering charge dash, which is this ability that you pick up on the tree here. I advise that you get this as soon as possible in almost every single randomizer, regardless of if you have charge dash, because when you do get dash, this will speed things up so much. So charge dash you normally do by holding charge jump. You don't actually need charge jump for it, and then by pressing dash, and it looks like that, or like that in the air. It's extremely fast compared to a normal dash, and significantly faster than most other forms of movement. So you want to be able to do it as often as possible, however it costs energy. So most of the charge dash tech involves refunding this energy through various methods. The most frequent is what is called a bash cancel, which is where you charge dash into something and bash, and as you can see, the energy that I used gets refunded when I do a bash during what would be the charge dash. If I do the charge dash from too far away, then I'll do the bash after the charge dash, and then it won't refund. The next thing to cover, well, you can practice very easily the bash cancels on this lantern. You can do it on enemies, you can do it on anything that you can bash. You can do this extremely consistently. You can start pressing the bash the moment that you press the charge dash. So you can just almost press them together and you'll get it every time. And you can do it on enemies as well over here. In Misty, where it's one of the fastest methods of movement. And you can cover distance much faster than you would normally be able to. The next thing to cover is stomp cancels. So this requires multiple abilities to do. You need dash, you need stomp, and in order to do it repeatedly, you need double jump. So just with charge dash and stomp, you do a charge dash, and then you do proper stomp cancel. If you do a charge dash and then a stomp, it will refund the energy, but that isn't incredibly useful unless you're trying to do a right angle. But if you do charge dash and a stomp, it will refund. But you can continue this by instead of waiting for the stomp to go off, when you hit stomp, you then hit jump in order to do a double jump in the air, cancelling the stomp, and then you can then continue and do another charge dash after that, like that. The amount of times that you can stomp cancel in a row is limited by the amount of jumps that you have. So if you have triple jump, you can do 2 stomp cancels and then a stomp at the end. So this is one of the best places to learn to do it and to practice. You can just do it repeatedly in the air and just use glide to reset your double jumps. This uses almost the same timing exactly as timing for doing dash glides. So once you learn dash glides, they shouldn't be too difficult to do. But if you miss it in a bad place like that, then you can end up falling down a very long distance. So if you're just learning it, be careful doing it when over large amounts of spikes, as it could end up rather bad. Now then, one of the more useful pieces of dash tech is called a rocket jump. So what we're going to do, this requires an enemy, you can't do this with lanterns or things, is when you do a dash, if you do a charge dash in the air, and you then hit jump close to the same frame, you'll be catapulted up into the air, because it will try and do a charge dash upwards, but it will cancel it, and you'll just maintain the speed, and you'll go zooming up in the air. That guy's dead now. So show it again on this guy. In this case, I generally hold the button as you get more height, and you can also do it downwards, which is called a meteor kick. This gets you massive vertical height. It's the best way of getting vertical height in the game, except for in some cases grenade jumps can be more useful, which is something we'll cover later. So the only thing left to cover with dash tech is something that isn't really going to be hugely useful, which is glide cancels. You don't actually need glide for this, but it uses the glide button. If you do a dash, normally it'll go the full distance every time, but if you hit glide, it will stop it for a shorter distance. So you can use that for a small amount of optimization if you need to stop earlier or for whatever reason. Right, that's dash covered. Okay, the next thing to cover is the very, very important ability of bash. Bash, normally when you do a bash, it will do this. Very short distance is covered, but it is still distance. However, in basically every single case, you'll want to be doing something called a bash glide instead, which is where when you release the bash, you are not holding any direction, you are neutral, and this allows you to go at a much further distance because you maintain more speed and you don't lose speed. So now it's time to talk about general glides. So not glide the ability, which is that, but glides such as bash glide or dash glide. Dash glide. Dash glides will, or all glides will maintain their speed for as long as you're in the air, or until you press a direction. So with bash glides and with all glides, you can keep your height by making sure you stay neutral, and then you can hold feather to stay in the air longer. So in this case there's wind here, so I can just tap that and I'll keep the speed that I've got from the bash glide. Or if you need to get a bit more height, you can also use double jump, or triple jump in this case, and then that will let me go a little bit further, keep a little bit more height. And so this is just something you'll do on almost every single bash glide. In fact, I can't think of a single situation where you'd ever want to not bash glide, as you can just stop yourself if you need to slow down by just hitting a direction. You hit the opposite direction, you stop almost instantly. So just always bash glide, which is do a bash, and when you release the bash, be completely neutral in your direction. Okay. The next thing to cover is something a lot more complex than the rest of the previous tricks, and this is called double bashing. And this has multiple methods in which you can do this. I'll show you what it looks like first. It's where you do a bash in a direction, and this defines the direction that the enemy will go, and then you do another bash, which will define the direction that you go. So this allows you to do all sorts of crazy things with enemies, projectiles, absolutely anything that can be moved around. So like I can just take this enemy up into the air. And this is incredibly useful for Randomizer. There's so many different places in which this is used. There's so many places that you can get to early by using projectiles to break walls that would normally require stomp or charge jump, or to take Fronkies that you can use Fronkey stomp. Fronkey when they slam on the ground, when they do their jump, that's equivalent to a stomp for the purposes of breaking floors and for jumping on stomp pegs. So you can use this to get Fronkies to do things like pressing the stomp peg to get into valley entry and all sorts of different things. It's extremely useful. However, it's also a one-frame trick. Normally, in the normal game, in the base game, is completely a one-frame trick, and what you can use to help you is if you're on controller, there was a method found by using the right analog stick that I don't know much about because I'm not a controller runner, but if you ask around in the Discord, people will help you out with that if you want to use that method. Or if you are a keyboard and mouse runner, there's multiple methods you can use. You can bind one bash button to your mouse and one bash button to your keyboard, and then by pressing one and then releasing the other, it will cause you to do a double bash. Or you can use scroll wheel if you're feeling it not controversial, and doing scroll wheel, if you scroll, if I can actually get it, if you scroll upwards, in my case if you scroll upwards when you do a bash, then you'll get a double bash. But all of these are not 100% consistent. The scroll wheel method is, I think, the most consistent, or maybe the controller method is the most consistent, but that requires a lot of binds. In the randomizer, there is an easier way to do that, and this is to make it a lot more fair between both keyboard and mouse and controller runners. There's a lot of issues between how many binds the free method supposedly uses. So in the randomizer, there is a button that you can bind. I believe by default it is bound to grenade. So for me it's grenade, so if I hit R while I'm doing a bash, it will force a double bash. So what you want to do is hold bash for at least 20 frames and then do a double bash by hitting your bind, whatever it is. So in my case it's grenade, and this will force out a double bash to occur. And there's lots of techniques to do with double bashing I might cover in a different video. Alright, so now I'm going to cover the section about wall interaction. So in Randomizer, getting some form of wall interaction is very important. Normally the forms of wall interaction that you'll generally come across in standard, and in fact every difficulty, I don't think even master has double jump wall interaction. but it's generally wall jump and climb are the methods of wall interaction. And what I mean by wall interaction is it means that you can jump up walls, or you have some way of gaining vertical height using a wall, and you can do that with climb as well. So if you have wall jump, that's very simple. You can just wall jump. But if you also have double jump, you can use you can do double jumps in between your wall jumps, and you'll move up faster. And you can also, I'll do a very brief covering, but ninja jumps, if you go neutral after jumping on a wall, you stay closer to the wall, and then you can climb up walls faster. Like that. So there you go, that's ninja jumps. They're not really very important. They barely save any time for a human whatsoever, so it's really not incredibly worth learning, but it can be quite fun to learn, and they do look pretty cool. What are you doing the flip? So then there's climb. Normally with climb you would always have wall jump with it, and this allows you to jump off walls when you reach the top of the wall. However, often in Randomizer you will not have the luxury of having wall jump as well as climb, or you will not have double jump as well. So this will mean that you will not be able to do that, and you'll have to deal with this instead. So if I want to jump off the wall, I can't anymore. Unless I use charge jump. So what you need to with climb, there's multiple ways to deal with it. You can just fall, which isn't very effective. I don't know if I actually was the spot. You can use, or what you want to generally do is you want to get some momentum upwards and then release, and you'll get a little tiny bound off the wall, which you can use to get some distance. There. So that's what you'll generally want to do. And there's also cases in which there'll be little micro ledges that you can use, and I will cover those in a second after I go through double jump wall interaction. So with double jump wall interaction, we turn on climb and turn on double jump. Normally you would just slide down the wall. However, if you have double jump, you can actually climb up walls, because if you're against a wall, your double jump will be reset. But it will not be constantly reset once you're double jumping. So what you want to be doing is you want to be constantly switching between being against the wall and being off the wall. And when you're off the wall, you double jump, and then when you're back on the wall, it will reset your double jump, and then you can move off and double jump again. So what you do is you can constantly swap directions that you're pressing and smash the double jump key, and this will let you get up walls reasonably easily. It's a lot easier than it looks if you practice it, but it can be rather difficult if you don't have something like triple jump to do something with afterwards. You can be in sort of the same situation as climb, where you're wanting to rely on microledges. Right, so now we'll cover microledges. So normally getting up this wall with climb would be ridiculously precise to get there. It is possible to do, but you've got the risk of taking damage and all sorts. So with this wall in particular, and it's specific to every single wall, it's just a case of having to learn where the microledges are. You can test for them by looking for where there's a bit of dust where the ori lands. Implies that there's a microledge there. They're very difficult to find, and some of them are extremely small, hence microledge. So this one's quite an easy one to get onto, comparative to most microledges. And so what you want to do is you want to jump. This is one of the most useful ones as well, as this grants you almost an entire new area. So you want to jump at it, so you have a minimum amount of vertical speed when you land on it. But you can sort of see that it's about there, where the microledge actually is. And this is just somewhere where Ori can stand, or lean, so you technically can't charge jump off it. I'm having trouble getting on this today. There we go. So it's exactly here, so you can see that Ori's sort of in this position where Ori can jump, but Ori can't charge jump, but can do everything else you'd normally be able to do on the ground. And this allows you to do a jump, and then you can grab this with climb. And then you can do boost upwards by having some vertical momentum and then letting go of climb, and it'll do a little arc, and then you can land here. So that's microledges, and that's wall interaction. So the next ability that we're going to cover is charge jump. Now, charge jump is an interesting ability. You can control how much height you get by pressing the jump key for a longer or shorter amount of time. Charge jump does not function if you are on if I find a ledge. If you are like hovering over the edge of something, then charge jump will not function, and you'll just sort of jump instead. So be aware of that. But charge jump normally is just used for vertical height, or you can use it for this, and you can break barriers with this. And also there's cases where even you can use charge jump and climb. So this is climbing on a wall and charge jumping. You can use this to break stomp floors as well, including the one to go down to light grenade. That doesn't look like you'll be able to have the distance, but it does still work. And this, unfortunately, isn't very useful for movement. Charge jump is pretty useful for movement, as it gets lots of vertical height very quickly, but this is very slow. So if you also have, as well as having climb and charge jump, if you also have grenade or light burst, then you can do something called a grenade jump. So what you need to do is you want to climb on a wall. You do not want to have dashed into the wall or to have like gone up the wall at very high velocity, otherwise it can, like Ori's hitbox will be partially in the wall and it can be a bit funky and not work. And this is another one frame trick, but this one there isn't really much you can do to help yourself get this one more consistently. All I do is I have the two buttons that I need, which is grenade and jump, on the down and the right arrow keys. And the reason why is because they're very close together, and this lets me press them in quick succession. So what you need to do is you first need to press grenade, and then you need to press jump exactly one frame later. If you press them on the same frame, it will not work. If you press it multiple frames later, then obviously then it does that instead. It doesn't actually cost energy in that case, or it would never cost energy because grenades do not cost energy in Randomizer, but normally it would. And so what you want to do is this might take me a few attempts to get. There we go. So doing that gets you a ridiculous amount of speed in whichever direction you've defined. It's the fastest movement in the entire game. This is something that if you have because this takes quite a while to set up, if you have a massive amount of distance that you need to cover, such as in this area, or in Misty Entrance for example, then this is a great way of doing so. Massive distance, and you can also maintain the speed even when you hit the ground. Normally when you hit the ground it'll just kill all of your speed almost instantly, but if you hold down the direction that you're going in, then it will try and keep the speed for as long as possible. So that can be useful for if you're coming out of grenade, you can just do a grenade jump out of grenade from near the tree, and then you can get right out to where the laser is, just with one grenade jump. So this is something that it's just a case of practicing. I advise you put the keys very close together if you're on keyboard and mouse, and a lot of controller runners switch to keyboard and mouse in order to do the grenade jump. It is possible on controller, but you don't have the advantage of having two keys right next to each other. So if you do it on the tells for if you've done it wrong is if you do it on the same frame, you'll see the grenade come out and you'll charge jump. And if you do it too late, then you'll see yourself sort of do this weird bounce out of the wall, and that means you've done it multiple frames too late, at least one frame too late. I'm not sure how many frames it goes up to where it still does that. So what you want to be doing is you need to do grenade and then jump exactly one frame later, and this will give you this massive speed. You can also use this to like redirect your speed into a vertical line. I'll see if I can get something. Okay, get a demonstration of that. And you can use that to gain massive vertical height as well. But it's generally easier and better to use a rocket jump if there's an enemy nearby. But this doesn't require any form of enemies, it just requires a wall. So this is a bit more versatile. However, it is not a very consistent trick. There's not really any way to get it 100% consistent. It's just a case of practicing. But yeah, you can see if I hold down the direction, I keep a little bit of my speed. So that can be very important. Then if we go over to one of the places that's most useful for gaining vertical height, if you go to Moon Grotto, if you're at the bottom in Gumo's hideout, so if you're all the way down here, if you grab onto this and then you do a grenade jump upwards, very consistent as well, then you can sort of bash against the wall, and that'll redirect your velocity upwards, and that'll let you get up to where the bridge has been opened very, very quickly. Or if the bridge hasn't been opened, the bridge is passable through from the bottom anyway, so you can just get up there very, very quickly. It can save you a huge amount of time instead of having to go up through the rock fall section if you get grenade jump early, or if you need to do a revisit. Right, that is most of the charge jump section. There is something called a Terra Break, which I will come back to after I've covered a different trick, but that one relies on something called Save Anywhere to do. For the grenade ability, or light burst as it's called in the game, grenade as it's called in the code, and that tends to be what the community calls it, which is this ability: throw a grenade, bounces up, does some damage, explodes, can break blue walls and plants, and you can aim it if you're standing still. Now, the significant difference between the two ways of firing a grenade is if you're moving, the grenade will not be able to be aimed, it will just fire in the direction that you're facing. And also, these grenades are not bashable when they're like this, but when you stand still and you throw them, they are bashable. But if you throw it like that, neither of these grenades are bashable. Another significant difference between Randomizer and the normal game is that grenades, as you can see, are not costing any energy, and that's not because we have some secret efficiency pickup. That's just built into the Randomizer to make grenade bash seeds not nearly as painful. So, for general movement, if you just have grenade and bash, what you want to be doing is you just want to tap grenade when you're standing still, do a bash glide, if you try to move during this, then you'll often just fire grenades out and you won't be able to bash. But this is what you generally want to do. It's just tap grenade, tap bash. You may also find that sometimes a grenade doesn't get destroyed by the bash, and that's just a weird timing thing. It's pretty much impossible for a human to get consistent, so I wouldn't worry about it, but it will happen every now and then. It'll feel pretty good because you'll get an extra free bash out of it. Often grenade and bash is great for its vertical height gaining capabilities. This can go even higher than charge jump. So often you want to throw just 2 grenades, but there are certain scenarios in which 3 grenades are required to get to somewhere. So such as the 200 XP, or is it? No, it's an ability cell next to Ginso on the left of Ginso. That's something that you'd need 3 grenades to get to if you have nothing else. And this will let you get maximum height. So the 3 grenades you want to do grenade, 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 and then you want to bash off the first one, bash off the second one, and then the third one is higher up. So you either want to do horizontal or vertically from there if you need more height or if you need more distance. Okay, I'm going to briefly talk about what the extra commands that were added, which are generally, by default, they are Alt and then some form of key or keyboard. So these are extra commands added by Sigma to the randomizer that allow you to do some extra things. So the first one, and the most important one by a long way, is Alt-R. And what this will do is this will teleport you to this exact position. You can use this at any point in which you are not input locked. So you can't use it during a cutscene, but you can use it at any other point. So even if you're mid-air or whatever, it doesn't matter, you can use Alt-R, and this is going to be incredibly useful for speeding up, getting back here, and then you can go back to Sunken Glades instantly, and then you can just go to the teleporter and go to wherever else you want to. Or you can go to Death Gauntlet from it. So that's something that you want to be using, and also the game does expect you, the logic does expect you that you can use Alt-R, as the randomizer logic doesn't allow for how to get out of an area or how to get out of getting a certain pickup once you've got it in the first place. So this is something that you will often need, such as if you go down to the double jump area where the double jump tree is, you may not ever get some form of wall interaction down there, and if you don't have any wall interaction down there, then you're going to have a hard time getting out. So this is what the Alt-R is used for, though it can also be used for other things, as well as the clear advantage of just speeding yourself up. You can also use it to get pickups that would normally not be very feasible to get. So if this was poison water, which it often would be, such as at the very start of the game, if this is poison water, you can go down here, get the pickup, and then very quickly Alt-R, and you can get that within 3 HP. You can get that pickup with 3 HP, and that can often open up quick early progression when you do that at the start of every game. And there's also the other incredibly useful one is this one here. This one you can do in a very small amount of health. Just do that and then Alt-R, and you're not even that far away from it. And you can even get the Fronkey to stomp that floor as well, so you can get that with next to no abilities, only the abilities you need to get to this area. So that's an extra couple pickups that you can get using Alt-R, and that's what we call fake flippers after the A Link to the Past randomizer. Okay, so the next one is Alt-T. So when you've picked up something and you do Alt-T, it will tell you what the most recent pickup was. So if you missed what a pickup was, or you didn't see what it was, or the message didn't pop up, which it should always now, I don't think it used to be the case that the water vein didn't show a message, but I think it does now. So you can use Alt-T to tell you what the pickup was. It can be very useful if you've missed what it was, or if you've forgotten. And then there's Alt-P. Alt-P tells you lots of information, tells you the number of trees you've got, the number of map stones that you've placed, the total number of pickups, and then in the case of shards, it would show you how many shards you have of each type. In the case of clues, it tells you the clues that you currently have, and if it's coloured in, that means you have that certain key, that dungeon key. And then there's Alt-C, which is just something that I recommend everyone does at the start of every randomizer. It just changes your colour every single time you pick up a pickup, because it's not really useful, it's not really not useful, it's just something that a lot of people like to do, as it just has a nice colour to Ori that constantly is changing if you're picking up pickups quickly. Alright, that's the main commands. There's also chaos mode and some other ones, but they're not really relevant, and in almost every case, in normal cases of playing randomizer, the chaos mode is just completely banned, as it can cause you to go through walls and all sorts of crazy things. This is going to go over the basics, what you have to do when you only have jump, when you just have sign as well, when you have no additional progression skills, because you'll be going through the same portion of the game at the start of every randomizer in the same state, so you want to get this section as optimal as possible, and it's reasonably simple to do so. So you start off, you choose normal, and then skip the prologue 3 seconds in. During the 15 seconds that you have to wait at the start, you may as well turn on colour shift, which is Alt-C. You can leave the UI on at all times through randomizer, as there's no text boxes, and you need to make sure you always get the first pickup as well. This will always be an energy cell. And you'll see what I'm doing is, instead of just running along the ground, I'm jumping a lot, as much as possible. It's because jumping is ever so slightly faster than running. So what you want to be doing is you want to do that as frequently as possible, but you never want to try and stop yourself from being able to do just a jump on a ledge by going, well, I need to be jumping constantly. The moment the Fronkey walk starts, you need to Alt-R out of it. You don't need to, but there's no reason to ever do the Fronkey fight. So now we've got to a section where we need to do some form of attacking. So for using Spirit Flame, so in order to use Spirit Flame optimally, the fastest method is to just spam the key as fast as possible. You can also pace your shots, which it's just a case of learning the timings for that. Or alternatively, if you are on keyboard and mouse, then you can bind the Spirit Flame key to scroll wheel. So I have mine on scroll wheel down, and you'll see these volleys of 2 that it will fire at a time. But it's a very small difference between all of them that isn't really significant unless you're going for a main category record. So you always grab that keystone. It will always be a keystone, of course. Grab this, whatever it is, And then if you do have the keystones, what you want to do is you want to jump down, and while you're falling down, you want to put the keystones in the door. Otherwise you'll end up looking at the door for a bit, wasting some time. If you don't have the keystones, you want to not fall down near the door, because otherwise you end up watching the cutscene. So since I have the keystones, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fall down, and while I'm in the air, drop the keystones in. Otherwise I would jump down and land and aim to land around here. So in order to get this pickup down here, the underwater pickup, you can get this with 3 HP, so you should try and get this pickup every time. It's reasonably easy to get and it requires no abilities. For a bit of safety you can kill this fish. It's a little bit slower to kill the fish, but significantly safer, because the fish will, if the fish is out of position, then it will come and eat you, and fish isn't affected by the same iframes that you get from being damaged in water, because you don't technically have iframes in water. It just damages you at a constant rate. So then you want to do a save about where I am right now, because this will line you up nicely. And then the first thing you want to do is you want to go down to this pickup and see what it is. So since this is an ability cell, normally you would not go and do this again and actually keep this item, because this would be this is not a useful item. But if it was something like double jump or a wall jump or any form of progression, even if it's a shard, I would leave it and come back for it later, because I try and remember that it's there. But that will differ from player to player. So what you want to do in order to get this pickup with 3 HP, assuming it is something good, you need to drop down, and then you need to hold your jump button to move faster underwater. And then the instant that you hit the pickup, you need to do Alt R. You don't have much of a time span in order that you have to be able to do that, but it is possible to do, and it is simple enough to get consistent. So the only other pickup that I want to cover very early on, because after that you would either have progression open through 2 keystones, you'd have progression open through some form of vertical ability, such as a wall interaction or charge jump or grenade bash or something, to get into BRB, or you'll have a teleporter to tell you to just go somewhere else. But if you just have bash by this point, you can't normally get to anywhere, but there is one more thing that you can get, and that is the Fronkey walk pickup. So if I give myself bash and take off glide and do a save, you want to get this Fronkey, you want to aggro it by doing an attack, and then what I find easy is to do a double bash here to guarantee that both of you get up. Normally you'd just be able to wall jump up, but we don't have wall interaction here. This is a lot easier if you don't have 1 HP, but again, this is another perfect opportunity for a double bash to guarantee that Fronkey gets over safely and you get over safely. And then you want to line this Fronkey up. This is a very forgiving bash, and then that'll let you get to this. And then this can be almost anything. This is often a progression pickup if you get bash extremely early. In this case it's charge jump, but I don't think that's particularly related, so it didn't give us anything relevant early, unless it could also be glide and wind restored could take you up here, so maybe that was what this seed was leading to. And that's pretty much the basics. Right. So this bit's going to cover how to deal with these things, the petrified plants. In normal Ori, these do not count for anything whatsoever. They are ignored even in the 100%. So they are generally completely useless, except for the fact that they sometimes drop a lot of XP, so they can be used for gaining a massive burst of XP. But in Randomizer, they can drop a pickup, and this is very important, as these could lead to your progression. These could be your progression. However, you can't break them with things like stomp, or charge jump, or wall charge jumps, or whatever. You have to use one of the 3 falling abilities. So, the first ability you can use is using Charge Flame, and Charge Flame can be done through walls. Charge Flame does not care. Charge Flame can do through walls. The next one is Grenade. So this one's Grenade, or Light Burst as it's also called. You can use that to break them. And the final one is Charge Dash, can also break them. But you do need the Charge Dash ability in order to do that, so just having Dash isn't enough. Okay, so this is a method of dealing with these blue wall things. Normally you need something that you can break blue walls with, which are the same things that you can break plants with. However, you can also break blue walls from the side that curves outwards, so you can see that it sort of curves out slightly, but on the other side it curves inwards, so you can't do it on that side. You can use Stomp, but if you stomp at the very bottom, it's not going to do anything, but if you do it just above the little lip thing, where it curves, then the blue wall will break, and this will let you go through them, so this opens up more options of places that you can go. Right, it's time to talk about one of the most important and significant tricks that you can do in the entire game, and this is something called Save Anywhere, and this is a form of menu storage. So this allows you to keep the ability menu while you're moving around. So you can see Ori's moving around in the background while the ability menu is still up, and this would never normally be possible, as the game would normally be paused when this is up. So, and this allows you to save at any point that you possibly want to by leveling up an ability. And this makes ability points very important, as you want to be using ability points carefully in most cases if you know that there's something that you can do a save anywhere skip through. So this is mainly used for skipping cutscenes, but it also has a lot of other purposes that I will briefly cover. So, first of all, how do you do it? So, if you load up you can do this from a save point, or you can do this from the spirit well. You want to click on the experience orb, and then you want to press proceed and cancel, or I think it's spirit flame and cancel. You can bind this to the same key in the rebindings file, so this is extremely easy to do. You can just hit the bind, or you can do it manually. I don't think I actually have anything set to spirit flame at the moment, or cancel even, so I can't do it, but can use. So I have my save anywhere bind set to B, so if I hit B, it will hide the thing. You need to wait a few frames, so you can't just do it instantly, but I think it's something that you need to wait like 7 frames before you can open up this menu and do a save anywhere, otherwise it will just pause and you can just try it again. And then this will allow you to jump up here. So you often want to make a backup first. So in order to make a backup, you hit C to copy, and then you hit space to overwrite a save. This is very important. You don't really need to do it in a lot of cases. I'm just doing this here for demonstration, but in other cases, when you get the tricks that can soft lock you, you want to be making a backup just in case. So this is a cutscene that we're about to go through. There's a cutscene trigger where Ori turns around, which is about there, and this is a long and boring cutscene that nobody wants to deal with. And there's a slow zone here, and this slow zone will stay there, but it's worth it to skip the cutscene. So what we want to do, set up a save anywhere, and then I have my contrast set to, I think it's minimum, in order to, you can see once Ori's turned around, that's when you want to do the save, and then you can exit out, reload, and so the trigger is out there. You can exit out and reload, and you can see that the cutscene's gone. The slow zone is still here, because that's only removed when the cutscene ends. And then this lets me just continue on without having to watch the cutscene, which saves a massive amount of time, as there are some very long and very boring cutscenes that we don't want to have to deal with. And if you have something like dash, or if you have grenade and bash, or anything that you can do a glide with, then you can do, so if we have dash, then you can just dash through the slow zone. You won't get slowed down, and then it's like the slow zone was never there. However, if you dash glide too late, you'll just hit the slow zone, and then you'll just lose all your speed instantly. So you just want to be able to dash glide over the cutscene very easily. This is one of the most important things that you can do to save a massive amount of time in Randomizer and in the general speedrun as well. And this can be used in almost every single cutscene in the entire game. There's only one exception that I can think of where this is more difficult to do, and that is a cutscene in Lost Grove, which is the cutscene where the dad dies. And this cutscene is a massive pain, and what you want to be generally doing there is you can do a very complicated strat involving a fish, or you can just do a grenade jump and then you'll go just over the top of the cutscene, which is generally what you want to do. But for almost every single other case that I can think of, you can do a save anyway. However, since it requires an ability point, it is expensive to do, as you only have a limited number of ability points. In Randomizer you'll generally have quite a lot, but if you're spending them constantly, say you're trying to get charge dash, or triple jump, or ultra defense, which are very useful abilities, especially ultra defense if you're trying to do a lot of damage boosts later on, then you're not going to have too many ability points to spare that you can just spend on everything. Okay, so this is a Rekindle skip. So what you want to do is you want to place an ability, you want to place a save point somewhere that's in range of the cutscene. So in this case the cutscene's about there. And then what you want to do is you want to walk into the cutscene as normal. And Windows cannot do an update. You want to walk into the cutscene as normal, as if you were to watch it, and then you want to hold whatever your save button is to save, and you'll see the game save thing at the top. And then as soon as you see the game saved, you want to exit out and reload, and the cutscene is gone, or it will leave the slow zone if it has a slow zone, and then you can go up here without having to deal with the rocks and without having to watch the cutscene. And this is useful in a huge number of places. Every cutscene most cutscenes you can just do a Rekindle skip. If you can do a Rekindle skip, you shouldn't be doing a save anywhere into it, because you don't want to be wasting those ability points. And this is just used for a lot of speed in cases, or in the case of this one, this is used for a bit of safety as well, because we don't have to deal with the rocks that will be falling down. But if you can bash on those rocks, so if you do have bash, then you're better off not doing that. Right, so this is a very important trick called Ghost Lever. There's all sorts of things you can do using the same sort of method with Rekindle. So what you need to do is you need to have this ability, Rekindle, and then you need to do something, and then while you've done something, then you can save when you normally wouldn't be able to save. So you place a save somewhere around this lever in range, and you hold the lever with whatever button it is for you. In my case it's shift, and then press a direction, and while this is going up, if I save the game, then it will look like it's going back down again. However, if I die or reload, it's easier to reload in this case. In most cases it's easier to reload, but if you have 3 HP and there's normally an exploding slime that will fall down here, and then you can die very quickly there. And as you can see, it stays up now permanently, and this will never go back down again. So this means that even if I don't have dash, normally it would be impossible to get there in time, but despite that, it will stay up. And this will stay up for the entire game. So that's Ghost Levers. Okay, so another property of save anywheres and saving in general is something called a save drop. So as you can see here, I haven't opened this door. If I didn't have enough energy to open this door, this would be a problem for getting to the 2 pickups below. However, we can use something called a save drop in order to skip out on this entirely. So what we want to do is we want to use this. You're going to use a save point, make a save, start a save anywhere, and then you want to slowly push this such that it will fall down, and then while it's falling down, this is one of the more difficult save drops, but this is one of the most useful ones in Randomizer. This will get pushed down and it will fall down, and while it's falling down, if you try and jump up into this little area here, and then you save, you'll do a save drop. And then what save drop is when you save and then you reload, the game will try and put you on the ground that is directly below you. So in this case, the ground that's directly below us is here. So if this has fallen all the way down, then we can do a save drop and it will land us instantly here. And this will let us skip on having to get 4 energy or 3 energy with an energy trick and then get this boulder, and that will be significantly slower in a lot of cases, and also this could be a massive sequence break if either of these 2 pickups are progression. So what you want to do for this one, as this one can soft lock you, and you probably will soft lock when you're learning to do this, you want to exit out, copy the save to a different save file, and then you want to, that will make a backup so you can just go back to it if you mess it up, which I might end up doing. So then you want to wait until it's in the air, and then even if you've died, it doesn't matter, you can save. And then when you reload, you're down here. You can do it without dying, but it generally doesn't matter. Okay, and this gives me a great opportunity to talk about this sort of wall. So this is the exact same sort of wall as you find in the final escape. Although it looks like every other normal stomp or charge jump wall, this is not a normal one. So this can be broken with a charge jump as normal, and this is the same as the final escape ones. And so this means that you need to be able to break you need to have one of these following things in order to break this. So if I throw a grenade at this, it will do nothing. In fact, I actually have grenade. I need to get all the abilities. Right, so if I have grenade, this will do nothing, it will just bounce off. And even if you did manage to get it to explode, it doesn't break it anyway. And this means that you can't finish the game with just grenade. Or just grenade and bash. So what you need to do is, one option is if you save here, so we can use the wall repeatedly, you can charge dash into this and it will break it. You just need to be close to the wall and then you charge dash and it will break the wall. And that's one way of dealing with it. You can use charge flame to break it. You can use charge jump. You can use stomp, surprisingly, even though it doesn't even look like it hits it, it still works. And these all apply to the final escape wall, so you need one of these abilities to finish the game. You can use a climb and charge jump as well. And what other abilities can you use? Have I gotten any? No. So you need either charge dash, charge flame, stomp, or charge jump, and often climb as well, if you just have charge jump, in order to finish. So bear that in mind when you're going into the final escape, as if you don't have those, you will probably end up soft locking if you start the final escape and try and altar out of it. Right, so this is another save anywhere trick that you can do. This is one I mentioned earlier, Terra Break. This requires you to have charge jump, and you don't actually need feather, but in cases like this one, you really want to have feather, as it makes it significantly easier, and I'm not sure how feasible it is to do without feather, but I think it is possible to do. So what you want to do is, first of all, you want to go up to where the wall that you want to break is. So in this case we want to break the roof, so long as I'm anywhere up against this roof, so I'll go to about the middle, and then what you want to do is do a save anywhere and then save. So now, if I die, I will reappear at the top here. And this doesn't look like it's too useful. However, if you charge jump upwards into spikes, if you charge jump so you die vertically due to a charge jump, then what will happen is, if you're also, in some cases you might have to hold a direction, so if I'm holding left and feather in this case, then what it will do is it will break the ceiling, because the charge jump damage halo thing will last throughout death. And this can be used, you can also use it to break horizontal walls using dash as well, by using a charge jump dash into it. There's lots of different cases in which you can break different walls with this, and this is probably the most important one that it can break, as this lets you get up to the sunstone. For like limit keys, then you can, this is a way that you can get up without having to, say for example, get the frog from down below, or all sorts of different things that you can skip out on due to this. Right, so this is something called key duping. This is something that is very useful for Randomizer and for general, and this involves duplicating keystones, which are things that we use to open doors. So in order to do a key dupe, what you require is a key door and a save that's outside of the current scene. So what you want to do is, you want to place a key, however many keys you have, into the door, and then you want to die while the keys are in the door. So as you can see, I can use the spider, which is incredibly easy to use in this case. So this is in full on, this is one of the easiest key dupes to do. And then once I've died, you can see that although I previously had one keystone, now I have two keystones, because the keystones that were in the door have come back to my inventory after I've died. And when I die, I respawn with the keystone that I would have had anyway. So this isn't dependent on the amount of keys that I'm picking up keys in the world, as a lot of people had thought it was. This is entirely based on how many keys you placed on the door. So if I place 2 in, and now I've got 4, I can just do this repeatedly. This is just a case of, all you have to do, make sure that the save that you have is outside of the current scene. Otherwise this will not work, because you need to unload the key door when you die. So this save is in this case you just put the save right near the teleporter, and it works every time. Placing it here would be too close, as it's kind of hard to tell which scenes are loaded. In a lot of cases it's a case of just learning which ones, where the minimum distance is. You can place up to 3, or you can even place them while you're dead, but you can place up to 3 at a time. If you place all of them into the door, if you open the door and then die, then none of the keys will be duplicated, because all of the keys are consumed at that point, and they wouldn't have gone back to your inventory anyway. So the maximum you can dupe at a time is 3, or amount of keys in the door -1. So for the 2 key doors, then you can only dupe 1 at a time. You can't dupe on every single door in the game. There are some doors that you can't dupe on, just because there are no, there's nothing that you can do to die on close by. But this is useful on like most of the doors in Sorrow. You can do it on this door in Forlorn. There's both doors in Ginso you can do it on. The Spirit Caverns top door you can do it on, and you can do it on the door to the double jump tree as well. And there might be some others that I've forgotten, but they're the significant ones that you can dupe on. This is just useful so you don't have to hunt down keystones, and you can just duplicate keys whenever you need them. Right, so now we're going to cover redirects. Redirects are methods of taking projectiles and causing them to change direction, when normally they would just be travelling in a straight line, and methods other than bash, because bash is a very easy method of redirecting. It's the best method of redirecting, it's the most accurate method of redirecting. However, there are other possibilities for when you do not have bash to redirect a projectile. So the first possibility is you can use Charge Flame. So if you use Charge Flame, it's based on Sign's position, and Sign's position is completely random, so it is not very predictable at all, and very difficult to use. So what you want to do is you want to wait for this, and then you can use Charge Flame. And ideally you never want to have to use a Charge Flame redirect, as like I said, it's completely random, but it is possible to do. The next one is using Stomp. Stomp is also a very awkward one to redirect, because it's hard to get the position right of when it redirects. It tends to be a very sharp angle away from you, but for very short distances or just complete opposite direction, it's very helpful. And then you've got grenade redirects, which are the most awkward redirect, and that is because grenades cannot be controlled when they explode, really. Without just spamming grenades, you can see it does redirect projectiles, but you should never need to do this, hopefully. But you can see it is possible to redirect. It is just very, very awkward to do, and that is the least reliable method of redirecting. Then there's dash. Normal dash doesn't redirect, however charge dash, if you have the charge dash ability, does do a redirect, and it will redirect exactly horizontally. So the redirects will work on every projectile in the game, and also Banelings as well. So any damaging thing that does not have health, it will work with. So as you can see, Charge Dash just redirects things to an exact straight horizontal direction. I believe you can also use it to effectively reflect projectiles back at enemies. Well, that's generally not what you'd use it for. But in this case, you could, if you death quickly, get our energy back. You could do a charge dash into this thing to get it in the correct direction, and then use a charge flame to break the floor. These can be very precise, and they are, I believe they may only be required in Master difficulty, so I'm not even sure they're required in Master difficulty, but that's redirects, alternatives to using Bash to redirect projectiles. Right, so this is another pretty much randomizer specific trick. This is what we call the energy trick. So this involves energy doors, and as you can see I have 3 energy, and that would normally not be enough to open this door. So what we want to do is, on the same frame that that sign leaves the door, you want to place an energy into the door. So you can go back and forth very, very quickly and just try this repeatedly. It really does not take much time to try. You can see I got it there. You get it again. So it's not as hard as it sounds, especially if you have something like scroll wheel to help you, but it certainly isn't necessary. You can try it again so quickly that it doesn't matter. And this will work on every single energy door in the entire game, including the 2 energy doors, and it just means that you need 1 less energy to open the door. So as you can see, the energy stays in the door, but I've still lost the energy. So what I can do is I can go down and I can grab extra energy, and then I can come back up again, and then I can place all 3 extra energies in the door, and then it will open the door as if I had 4 energy. And then the door will open, and this will let me access some extra pickups earlier, or it will let me full clear more areas earlier on that I'd normally have to backtrack for, especially like the one in Spider Cavern area, or in some cases Glazer. It's very rare that you'd need to do this for this door in particular, but this is a very easy one to demonstrate and practice on. But this opens up this pickup, which is very slow to get to, but this can be a required pickup for progression in a lot of cases. It's a very awkward pickup to get to. So this is another specific skip that you can do using Save Anywhere. It is possible to do this with Rekindle but you will always guarantee the bridge to be closed if you use it with Rekindle. And what we're going to do is we're going to skip the cutscene in which we are sent down right to the bottom of Moon Grotto, when really we want to grab these extra 2 pickups, the Water Vein and 100 XP orb, to the right before we go down and clear the rest of Moon Grotto. So what we do is we want to, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can just straight up just walk into the cutscene, do a Rekindle or do a Save Anywhere at any point, and the bridge will stay closed. But ideally you want the bridge to be open, so then you can fall straight back down again, because you can't just drop through the bridge as if it was a platform, although you can go up through the bottom of the bridge. So what we want to do is we want to have the bridge open, and we also want to get to the other side. If you have abilities like double jump, or if you have something like, if you have air dash or glide, then this is much more lenient, and you don't need to get the boost up into the air, which is what I'm going to show how to do. But if you don't have those abilities, you really want to get this boost up into the air, which will allow you to get to the other side. If not, it's not a huge problem. You're only missing out on 2 pickups, which you can get later. But this is the way that you can do with just jump. So what you want to do is you want to start a Save Anywhere, you want to walk into the bridge, then you want to wait until it's just catapulted you up into the air. And then you'll see you'll get a massive boost of height, which you get from the cutscene. You save it during that boost of height, at any point during that boost of height. How early you do it depends on how early in the boost defines how much distance you get. But you only need a short amount of distance in order to get over here, and then you can go over here, rekindle this cutscene, grab and then, importantly, you can jump down here. And this gives you another extra pickup that would normally be a pain to get. But since you can just jump down, you don't need any abilities to get this. You can just, whatever you need to get to Moon Grotto. You can even do this if you get the Moon Grotto teleported really early as one of the early pickups before you get any form of progression. You can get down here, grab these pickups, 3 extra pickups that you can get, and then you can jump down here, and you're already on the left side. You can turn the lever, and then you don't have to deal with Grotto Skip or you can get to this plant and that XP over there much easier. So that's a very, very useful skip to do. And since the bridge is open, you can easily fall back down again whenever you need to. But it doesn't matter that much if you leave the bridge closed, it just loses a bit of time. That's about it. This is going to explain how to use Fronkies, how stomping things that normally you wouldn't be able to stomp if you didn't have stomp yourself, such as stomp pegs or stomp floors. Fronkies also have this stomp ability that they use whenever they do a jump. As you can see, there's this little explosion similar to stomp, and this will allow us to get into areas such as Valley of the Wind, being the most significant one, as this is access to the entire left side of the map without having to have stomp or the Valley teleporter. So with this Fronkey in particular, if you place a save here and then they reload, then the Fronkey will nicely be in a position such that you can just move ever so slightly to the right, and the Fronkey will start jumping towards you. If you move slowly, then this bird won't ever hit you, and you want to move right to the edge here, and then the Fronkey will be in the perfect position that you can do a couple of double bashes, or you can jump on this wall here if you don't want to do double bashes, and then you can catch the Fronkey. And then what you want to do is during the cutscene, you can bash during the cutscene, so you want to bash the Fronkey off, so the Fronkey isn't going to damage you the moment that you leave the cutscene. So this is one of the few tricks involving Spirit Flame in the entire game. This is a very, very useful trick in this one specific area. In pretty much everywhere else it's completely useless. What you're required to do is to break this wall, you can either use Stomp, or you can bash the Baneling, or you can charge flame the Baneling or whatever to get the Baneling over here and break the wall. However, if you don't have bash or stomp, it can be very awkward to do, so what you want to do instead is you can use Spirit Flame. So if we wait for the Baneling to respawn, save. So what you want to do is you want to do 14 shots on this guy. 3, 6, 9, 12, 14. You can do more, and that will cause it to just go faster, but it will store the momentum of you damaging it and it getting knocked back, and then it will catapult the Baneling all the way over here, when normally the Baneling would just sort of fall down and die there. So it gives the Baneling just this extra bit of height and extra bit of speed, breaking the wall, and saves you having to go and hunt down either Stomp or Bash, or having to awkwardly charge flame redirect the Baneling. This is one of the more difficult tricks in the game. This is something called door warp. So if you go through a door normally, you'll arrive at whichever door it's attached to. Remember that doors are two separate doors that are just linked together. It's not a actual inside and outside door, it's just two doors linked together. So what you want to do in order to door warp is you want to save in front of the door, in which the horror entry cutscene is already saved for us here. And then if we reload the game, and on the first frame that the game loads, you want to press enter the door. And then entering the door on the first frame will put you at what we assume is the default scene position. And this differs based on whichever door you're in, and is generally not that useful. However, in the cases of Horu, there are a few doors that have some form of significance of where they take you, and there's also the main one, which is this door will take you below all of the lava, skipping the entirety of Horu, and take you right near to where the final escape entry is. And this is what we're going to use in most randomizer runs to skip the entirety of horror. But if you do this on like this door, or if you do this on the Ginso entry or exit door and the forlorn doors, you'll generally find that you either won't really notice that something's happened, or it's taken you a very minor place that's generally not too far away, but it's a bit inconvenient because it's not really somewhere you want to go. So this is pretty much the main usage of it, and certainly this is probably the most likely use of it in Randomizer. So what you want to do is reload the game, and on the first frame you hit W, in my case, or whatever enter is for you, and then you will warp down here, and the game will save your position down here, so you don't worry about dying. You won't get stuck back up the top again. There's a few techniques for doing this. The one that I like to do is I like to time it, so I listen out for the audio cue, and when that's gone off, when the sound has finished going off, I know the time after that in which I hit the button, which would just be a case of learning it. You can also mash the key, which is good for if you're new to the trick. You can just mash the key and then eventually you'll get it. Or if you really want to, you can even, and you have keyboard and mouse, you could bind it to scroll wheel, and you can just scroll the moment that you start reloading. The scrolling one will probably be the most reliable, but timing it is what I like to use. Okay, that's pretty much the entire guide at this point, so if you have any questions, then feel free to ask any of the wonderful people in the Ori Discord, and I should have all of the timestamps for the different sections in the description down below, so you can jump back and forth. Right, thank you for watching.